Hey guys, it's Grand Admiral Thrawn, and to give you a bit of a break from the Christmas videos I've been doing a lot recently, I'm ranking the main characters of Andor. This is the main 15 characters, Andor being the newest Star Wars show. It was a good show. I don't think it's the best Star Wars show like everyone else is making it out to be, but it was definitely a good one. But I'm not going into detail about that. This is a video about the characters, which let's get into. In last, or 15th, I have EEDY KARN, SYRIL's mother. All she really does throughout this series is nag SYRIL, and that's literally all she does. She makes him food, nags at him, and just says, oh, and just complains about everything SYRIL does. That's all she really does. And she has so much screen time that she is one of the main 15 characters of the show. So obviously she's in last out of those 15 if all she does is nag a character to do stuff differently. Number 14, I have CINTA Kaz. CINTA is an okay character, but a problem with her is after the heist, she does almost nothing. She just spends her time in that bar looking for CASSIAN, who's not even coming there. So they're just spending screen time showing a character doing essentially nothing. She seemed okay, but we never really get to learn anything about her or much of anything about her at all. And yeah. Number 13, a number member from the heist crew, but this one's higher on the list, ARVEL SKEEN. SKEEN has that shocking betrayal of how he only was actually in it for the money, and he would actually kill them all for his money, and how his brother died, but he actually did die. It was a very interesting arc, and that's what earned him above CINTA, because we actually learned stuff about SKEEN. But, I mean, he's not exactly that all likable, which is why he's pretty low on the list. Major Partagaz, I think. I don't know if I got that right or not. He's played by the guy who plays Kyber in Game of Thrones, so I was actually excited for his character, but it was a bit of a letdown because he's barely in it and he doesn't do much of anything even when he is in it. And Kyber in Game of Thrones is a very interesting character / side villain, but this guy was not. He's like a lesser version of Tarkin. So yeah, he's very low on the list. NEMIK. Now, I like NEMIK because he's like an innocent character who you kind of root for and is likable because he's into old technology and making it useful, and he's innocent. He's kind of the innocence of the team, and then his death is actually pretty sad, even though we barely got to know him. It's just sad because he was kind of innocent and didn't really deserve to die. He had a whole life ahead of him, but he dies. And yeah, NEMIK is just a likable character, so that's what earned him higher than CINTA and SKEEN. Up next, a lot of people may think she's pretty low on the list. I have MAARVA Andor. Now, yes, her speech is very good, and the way how she motivates those rebels is good. But apart from that, she's just an old lady who's sitting in a chair dying. And the only interesting thing about her is when she's dead, really. So, I know, this one's going to get a lot of criticism because a lot of people liked her character, but she didn't really do much, and that's why I have her this low on the list. Up next, I have KARN, a main villain of the show. The SYRIL is kind of an idiot, at least in the first 3 episodes of his plan to catch CASSIAN, but he's an idiot trying to do the right thing because CASSIAN did kill 2 officers, and nobody else is trying to go after him, just SYRIL. So, yeah, and then when things go wrong for SYRIL, how he gets fired, he joins the Empire, and then he falls in love with DENDRA. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, he falls for her, but she does not feel the same way about him. He still feels like he has to prove himself by catching Cassian, and it's actually an interesting thing to follow, except for when we're in the scenes where his mother is just nagging him about how he does everything wrong. Those are not actually interesting. But SYRIL is an okay character. Up next, I have B2 EMO. B2 is a good droid. You know how every Star Wars show has to have their droid? For Rebels, it's Chopper. For Bad Batch, they have Gonki. It's like every character, everything has their droid. Like Anakin has R2. Luke has R2. The Rebels have Chopper, and like I said. And Mandalorian has IG-11. Well, this show has B2 EMO. B2 is kind of like NEMIK, how he's just innocent, and B2 is also a bit of a comedic relief character, but not too much. He's more of just a droid that is likable. And yeah. I don't really have much to say about B2, but he is a main character. Okay, now we're getting into the good characters of the show. Like, we're past okay and bad. Bad being just SYRIL's mother. Everyone else is okay. Now we're into the good characters. And I have Luthen Real. Luthen is played by a good actor, so he is obviously a good portrayal. And Luthen is a very good character in my mind. He's got this great backstory that we keep learning bits and bits of. Well, we don't actually learn anything about his backstory, but we learn about his motives. And that speech he gave, at first I wasn't exactly swayed with Luthen. I just was like, he's okay. But after he gave that speech, that's when I started to think of him as a good character. He's got great maneuvering with that one scene with his ship, what he does to those ties. That's pretty cool. And yeah, there are theories that he's actually a Jedi survivor, and I actually see those theories being possible. More than KINO actually being Snoke. Okay, up next I have Bix Colleen. Bix doesn't really have much of an arc in this show, more as she is a good character who is resisting to give up any information because she doesn't know anything and she's still getting tortured by the Empire for the information, and how she kind of helps with the rebellion, but not really. She doesn't know anything. She's just been having a few conversations with Luthen before about parts and whatnot. And she's getting tortured by the Empire on a daily basis by listening to these horrible sounds, and they're just torturing her, and she doesn't know anything, and she seems like a pretty good character, and she's actually believable too. Her actress does a nice job. Up next, I have Vel SARTHA. Vel is interesting right from when we meet her, and then we learn more and more about her, like how she's actually Mon Mothma's cousin, or how she's in love with CINTA, or her and CINTA are a thing, kinda. And Vel just keeps getting more interesting, and how she's at first when we first meet her, it seems like her and Luthen don't actually get along, but then it turns out she's one of his most loyal agents. And she's a very good character of how she's also trying to kill Cassian, except with her, we actually see her doing stuff, not just being in a bar as a bartender and just keep cutting to that. We actually see stuff with Vel, which is why she earned a higher place on this list. Okay, up next I have Dendra MEERO. She has a great arc in this show of how she's trying to prove that the rebellion is a thing to all these other Imperials who just aren't listening to her. And she keeps digging and digging for information, and she finally does find stuff. And she's finding ships and stuff. She's just finding out all this stuff, but nobody's believing in her except for Qyburn, I can't remember his name anymore. I'm just going to call him Qyburn, okay? Like he is in Game of Thrones. Anyway, he's the only one who actually has faith in her. And yeah, she's just proving to the rest of those Imperials that the rebellion is real and you need to take me seriously about this. And it was a good arc. Okay, a lot of people might disagree with this one, but I have Cassian Andor not in first. The title character of his show. I don't think what all he does is always interesting. His main objective throughout this whole show is just to get out of wherever he is currently located. First he wants to get off Ferrix, okay. Then he wants to get out of prison. Then he wants to get off the planet he's just gotten off of and go back to Ferrix. His whole motive throughout this whole show is to get from one place to another. And it just keeps changing. And I do like his arc of how he realizes that he is a rebel at heart. It's a good arc, but I don't know. I feel like the other characters I have above him are more interesting. And yeah, I still like Cassian in this show. I think he's better in this than he was in Rogue One because he wasn't actually one of my favorite characters in Rogue One. I didn't dislike him or anything. It's just with this show, he's actually kind of grown into a character that I like. Number 2, I have Mon Mothma. This show does a great job of showing us how the rebellion was started with Mon Mothma funding it, and how Mon Mothma actually had a family, and we actually learn stuff about Mon Mothma when she's always been just this background character in Return of the Jedi, in Revenge of the Sith, in Rogue One. She's always been just this background character. There is one episode of Rebels where we learn more about her, but that's about it. In this show, she's practically the second main character of the whole show, and I like how, when we're cutting to her, it's interesting to learn how she funded the rebellion, what it did to her, impact-wise, on her family and her life of her funding the rebellion. And yeah. Now, number 1, before I do say who number 1 is, I should probably clarify that characters like Saw Gerrera did not make the list because I didn't think they were enough of a main character. Luthen's I don't know what she really is, assistant, I'm going to say. She never actually does anything, so that's why she's not on the list, and she doesn't get much screen time. But number 1 is a character that is my favorite of the show, KINO Loy. We are given 3 episodes about KINO, and they are amazing episodes, okay? KINO starts out as this guy who just wants to get work done and then serve his time and get out of that prison. And he's yelling at everyone to just do the same. But then he realizes after that old guy dies, he's never getting out of here. And that's when he realizes that they need to uprise. And he's responsible for everyone that escapes in that. He motivates them. He helps come up with the plan. He tells Cassian how many guards there are. This uprising that they did in that prison is all responsible to KINO. Without him, nobody would have escaped there. And we only get 3 episodes about him. Andy Serkis does a great performance as KINO Loy. And I think that, honestly, we could have gotten a spin-off about just KINO. It'd be difficult to write, but I would watch that show. Okay, and one thing, at first I didn't like how KINO can't escape, and I'm like, dude, just jump. But then I realized that's actually great for his character of how he's wanted nothing but to escape this prison for so long. And then he himself cannot escape, but he can help so many other people achieve his dream that he cannot. And it's a great arc, and KINO is kind of more of a mentor to Cassian than Luthen was, which is what the trailer hinted at. Anyway, like I said at the beginning, Andor was a good show. This is my ranking of the main 15 characters in the show. My friend Movie Fan is doing his review of the show. So if you want to hear what he thinks about the show, which is pretty similar to what I have as opinion goes, go check out his video. I'll try and link it in the description below or in the comments maybe. But anyway, this is Grand Admiral Thrawn signing off. I hope you enjoyed Andor.